Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. I am James Jones. I'm joined today by Mr. Greg Leahy.
Ahoy, ahoy, everyone.
Mr. Guillaume Vayette.
Hello, hello.
I'm going to keep you in suspense. It is February 1st, 2024, and this is episode 860. So the question is this the predictions episode? Is it?
No.
God fucking damn it, you're wrong, it is. John's here, and he's already made me mad. It is the predictions episode because John is here. It is unavoidable. We are going to do them. I will accept no no's. This is, I'm pulling rank here. We are doing predictions, but not right now. We're going to do predictions in a minute. I'm going to make you wait again, just a little bit longer. We're going to do some new business to start the show. And John, who has been away for 2 weeks doing God knows what, we're going to have him start off new business about God knows what. Let's see where we go.
Yeah, so picked up Tekken 8, which is better than I thought it would be. I know Guillaume talked about it last week, and I've always liked Tekken games. But this one, though, there's really a lot to this. There tends to be a lot of meat on the bone. The one thing I like about it, though, is that it's not anime bullshit. That's the good thing. This time it's just a gritty reboot of Tekken.
Oh, really?
I'm completely kidding. You have your pandas and you have Kuma in there, the bear. It's pretty absurd. Actually, but I don't think it's quite as absurd as other ones.
Or it hasn't gotten there yet.
It hasn't gotten there yet, and not all of the characters are dropped. But yeah, I'm kind of trying to figure it out. Move wise, I really don't know. I'm terrible at fighting games, but man, I sure do like to try. But it's pretty fun. Let's see, there's a whole bunch to it, like Arcade Quest. I'm sure Guillaume went through a lot of this stuff. The single player is just as ridiculous as ever. The story is incomprehensible. But the characters look great. What really impressed me is how much you can customize your characters. Not that you really want to. Like, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like it's sort of, because for every character you can save a profile. Actually, you can save up to 10 different customizations for every single character in the game. Why you would want to do that, I don't know. And you can earn currency in game and then unlock costumes and all kinds of stuff. If you want to take your panda and give him a helmet that is a loaf of bread, you can do that.
Why wouldn't you?
I don't know why you would not want to do that. But yeah, I mean, it's really impressive. Looks great. The different maps are super impressive. It's just a really, really solid package, which is really nice, especially these days when it just seems like a lot of these fighting games just get dropped with, a severe lack of content, whether they only have an online mode with no single player mode, or there's just not really much to do. Sometimes they seem to be very bare bones, especially like Street Fighter V suffered from this, right? It got a lot of criticism. Street Fighter 6 I've heard is much better. But this has, you can have like you have a little avatar type character, and you can go to this little sort of 3D area where it has like, you can go to the Tekken dojo and, there's a store kind of thing. So there's just a whole lot to it. I mean, it's really good. I mean, I think if you really enjoy fighting games, but you're not super hardcore, I feel like Street Fighter is kind of more hardcore than Tekken. I just think Tekken you can get away with more button mashing than you can in Street Fighter. And
it's 3D versus 2D is a big part of that.
Yeah, exactly. And with this one, they've added a couple things like the heat meter and then rage arts, which is kind of a super attack. So I can't say that I haven't struggled a little bit in the single player, but that's more because I don't know combos. For example, it's a huge thing, right? And I think, I don't know, Guillaume, like if in the, because you just played the demo, right?
Yeah.
Did they have the training area in there?
I don't remember even checking it out. I was just like, I'm going to play on the easiest setting I can possibly play, and I'm just going to check it out, you know?
You just mashed buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that worked a lot, you know?
Yeah. Exactly, and I think that's what makes it approachable, right? There is the training area where you can, go through all the different combos and stuff like that. I don't think it's quite as good as Street Fighter. Like, I played Street Fighter 4 a while back, and that is a really nice training mode that kind of walks you through everything. Same thing with Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat actually is a really good, those games have really good training modes where they kind of walk you through everything. These are the basic moves, and then here's how you string together a combo. I don't think Tekken is quite as good as that. The training mode isn't as hand-holdy. It's more, here's the move set. If you want to practice one of these moves, you select it from the list, it superimposes the move at the top of the screen, and then you go through it. So it's more of like, here's everything in the toolbox, grab something out of the toolbox and fool around with it until you master it. But I think that's okay though. I don't really mind it, but it is nice being sort of handheld through stuff, like almost going through a complete tutorial like you can in Mortal Kombat. It's really helpful, especially for pure beginners. But I think that Tekken is approachable enough in the sense that you can feel like you're making progress just through sort of button mashing, that you can get quite a ways in the single player campaign before you start actually having to really learn what you're doing. And I'm not even playing it on the easiest setting. I'm playing it on the kind of normal or medium level setting, which they recommend it for all players. But I don't really know what I'm doing, so I don't really know if that applies to me or not. But it's solid. It's a super solid game. It is a complete package, and man, and they have just one more thing. Just like they do have like. For example, it has all the background music from all the Tekken games, so you can just put that on and go, which I think is pretty cool too.
Tekken always feels like there is this bigger is better philosophy, and not in like the pejorative sense, but just like, wouldn't it be really funny if we put this thing in here?
Oh yeah.
What if we created a dumb mini game inside of our engine, like Tekken Ball,
Tekken Bowling, right?
Great. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why is there a bowling game in Tekken 7? I don't know. It's Tekken.
Why not?
It's stupid. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so it's Street Fighter, not the current one, the previous one, which would be 5. Yeah. Like, it when it came out was excoriated for lack of features. Tekken is the exact opposite.
Yep.
It takes the Mortal Kombat approach of just like, we're going to jam everything into this game.
Yeah.
And we're going to appeal to single player, to online, to
and offline. There's an offline mode as well.
Yeah, we're going to play,
which actually threw me because I'm like, wait a minute, I can't do this because it grays out some stuff, but you can do like single player thing. I'm like, what? Yeah. I'm like, is this game broken? I'm like, oh my god, it actually has an offline mode. What the hell? Yeah, they're
gonna like they appeal to players who have no desire to go be competitive against other players, and like that there is a market for that I think was underappreciated, and I think the blowback on Street Fighter V has made everybody aware that no, that market actually is important, and you can see it even in Street Fighter 6, where there's a ton of single player content.
Yeah, you see that with I think some games now where they almost over cater to the Twitch streamer crowd, where those people have such an outsized voice in the community that they kind of become the tastemakers and game developers, and I think this especially happens in MMOs and in some of like the looter shooter games, where those types of influencers have such an outsized voice that they become what the game designers cater to, which means
they become the target.
Yeah, which means like you start catering your game design to the 2% of people that are super, super, super hardcore, alienating the rest of people that just want to pick the game up and play it for fun.
I like to be Ryu and beat people up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Street Fighter V was literally incomplete when it came out. They had to hit their date so they could do the Capcom Pro Tour. Mm-hmm. Like, they had to be out there because Capcom Pro Tour was getting ready to start. They wanted Street Fighter V to be in it, not Street Fighter 4.
That's the thing, right? Like, with 5, it was the whole thing was like, oh, it's got to be... they were making it for EVO, for tournaments.
Yeah.
And I asked, like, well, what's in it for me? And I didn't really understand what the point was, and it seemed like I was kind of right. Like they were completely forgetting the everyday player.
Mm-hmm.
They eventually completed the make good, but it took them over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the whole complicated, like, you can earn money through in-game play and buy the characters, but maybe you can pull that off. But I mean, the larger issue is just that it didn't appeal to a certain audience, whereas Tekken's always been really good about that. I remember Greg mentioned Tag Tournament 2 on Wii U last week. I actually brought it to the episode 400 recording and we goofed around with it. It's not full featured, it's overly featured.
Yeah.
Like, there's actually too much stuff in that game.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, we're going to have a bunch of costumes for Nintendo characters in here. There's a mode where there are mushrooms coming from the sky, including the super mushroom, and I can't remember what they call the big giant mushroom. That would just pop up, so suddenly you could be a character who's like 10 times normal size fighting someone who just got the negative mushroom and is like half-sized. And does it play well? No. It plays terrible. It plays fucking terrible. But it's not meant to play well. It's meant to play stupid. It's a little bit like Smash, where it's like, you can do things in Smash. Is it good? No.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
why it's fun.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think Tekken doesn't take itself too seriously, whereas I feel Street Fighter takes itself very seriously.
John, there's a character in this image that I have posted holding an Ethernet cable to the screen saying, time to test out our company's newest product. No, that doesn't take itself very seriously.
I mean, to say the least. It's just, in general, I feel like, Street Fighter is the game that is just, blatantly made for the real fighting.
I don't think that was always the case, though.
No,
like,
it wasn't. It used to be like
even Street Fighter 4 was kind of silly.
Yeah.
I don't know. And 6 feels silly, so maybe they got the message.
Yeah.
Message received.
Yeah.
But you having fun?
Yeah.
You're gonna make Evo pools?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Okay, cool.
100%.
Sweet. John's getting out of pools, everybody.
Yep.
That's our first prediction of the night.
Yeah. But that's it. In terms of new stuff, that's really
okay.
That's all I've been looking at.
Cool. I'll go next because I've got a couple things to touch on. I am not going to make y'all hear me talk about Trails from Zero again. I beat it. I really enjoyed it. It's a really good feeling retro JRPG. And it's retro from like a very specific era. I would say it's somewhere in the late PlayStation, early PS2 era feel. It's a PSP game, so that's kind of why it feels that way. It's not, super involved in terms of the amount of improvements they did, but it feels good. It tells a nice story. It's got a fun cast. It's not too serious. It's anime, but not overly anime. Like I said, I like the characters. They are a fun group. It's rare you get kind of these ensemble casts where you get four main characters and then a bunch of supporting characters, and they're all kind of just fun to like. They're more fun in proximity to each other, if that makes sense. Like that each character is made better by the presence of the other three. So like that's really good, and I really enjoyed it, and I put a ton of time into it. I think my clear time is like 60 hours. Keep in mind a lot of that is on acceleration, and acceleration also speeds up the clock. But I had a good time with it. But I'm not going to make y'all hear me talk about Trails to Azure. Because like my immediate thought upon completing it Sunday night was I should go buy Trails to Azure, which is the sequel. And it's same engine. I mean, I think it was another PSP game. I think it was like a couple years later, Trails to Azure came out. And it basically picks up like 2 months later. So I was like, no, I need to have something to talk about on the show. I need to have something to talk about on the show. That would be silly for me to go get Trails to Azure. You absolute buffoon. You cannot do that. And so I didn't. I got something that popped up on the eShop recently and it caught my eye. And that's really hard to do unless you're somebody like me who looks at everything on the eShop that comes out. All of it. This is Saga of the Moon Priestess, and this is a Zelda-like. This is an extreme Zelda-like from East Asia Soft. Now, in and of itself, that is a worrying publisher. East Asia Soft will publish anything, and I mean that. I mean anything, like anything. There's no limit. There's no floor. There's definitely a ceiling. But this looked good. Like this looked good. And it looked like I would say, Game Boy Color era Zelda game. And the images that were available on the eShop, there were only a few of them. It seemed okay. And so I thought, well, I think it was $5. I'll give it a go. It's about 3 hours long, and it's not very good. Here's the problem with it. So it is very much trying to be a Zelda of a specific era. Let's just say the Game Boy era. And I'll put the link in the chat so y'all can look at the image, see how much I mean. This is trying to be a Game Boy Color era Zelda game. There is an issue that is like, what was the biggest challenge? I'll ask it this way: what was the biggest challenge with the two Oracle games on Game Boy Color? Like in terms of their playability.
The item switching, was a similar thing to Link's Awakening in its original form, and then also, I guess, the flipping of the states of the worlds, because you had the 4 seasons.
That was a pain in the butt.
In Seasons in particular. I mean, the Ages was just essentially Light World, Dark World, but with future and past. But again, there's that too.
But this game is only 3 hours. It doesn't have time for any kind of world switching. But obviously, it's not going to have problems with the item switching because there's 4 buttons. He lied! There is a single button you can map items to on the Switch with 4 buttons. I don't know why. I don't know why it's like this. So anytime you want to change items, you've got to pause the game, open up the menu, pick an item.
That seems so silly.
Attach it. There's a button.
Like
There's 2 buttons.
I could understand if this was an NES game, but like a literal NES game.
Yeah,
but
it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
So here's what the buttons are used for. I can never remember the letters. The X is the attack button, which felt wrong. It feels like it should have been A, but X is the attack button. Your character is a priestess. She uses a spear. So all her attacks are straight out in front of her. B uses the item you have mapped. No, excuse me. A uses the item you have mapped. B is a context-sensitive button. Y is a cool thing you can press to relieve stress if you're feeling like it. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't do a goddamn thing. Y is completely useless.
It's not even a hug button then.
It's just I want to make tappy tap sounds with a controller button.
Okay.
So first off, fucking why? But secondly, this doesn't just apply to like the weapons you pick up, because every dungeon has a weapon. So there's like there's just bow and arrow. There's an item that lets you lift heavy objects. Oh wait, you're probably thinking, oh, wait a minute. Link just puts those on when you get them, and you just have them. Why? You don't have to enable them every time you want to use them. And I say, no, you have to enable them every time you want to use them. You want to pick up a rock, you better put that item back on, and then take it back off after you've thrown the rock, because you need to do that. You want to throw a bomb? Well, you press the item button to open up a bomb, which again you have to map. But then you press a different button to throw the bomb. That's the context-sensitive button. Why? I don't know. Is the context-sensitive button the only button you use to interact with people? No, actually, you use the item button to interact with people. So again, it's only context-sensitive insofar as it's the throw button. So I should really just call it the throw button. So there are boss fights where you use this game's hookshot equivalent to avoid the enemy attack. Pause the game mid-flight so you can change to the bow and arrow or the fire rod, so you can attack once you land. And then you have to pause the game before they start charging up their attack to fire the hookshot again, because the hookshot animation is very slow and there's no iframes. I'm not saying there's no iframes on the hookshot. I'm saying the game doesn't have iframes, like at all. Which means if an enemy hits you with the laser and the laser knocks you back into the path of the same laser, it will keep hitting you and you will keep taking damage while you are stunned. Is this good? No. It's very bad. And this is a real issue on some boss fights. Like, what if this laser hits you 3 or 4 times and knocks you off the platform? Well, guess what? You just lost most of your health. Are the boss fights good? No. Why? Because they usually take like 27 hits to kill. Why? Who can say? Do you know how close you are to killing them? Never. It's just this like weird mash of bad ideas. The enemies in the dungeons don't respawn. Ever. but neither do the healing items. So don't use up your boss fountain because it's gone. And if you don't kill the boss, that's a shame. Too bad you're starting your save at 3 health out of 8 because every time you die, you go back to the last save spot. Is there a save spot in the village? No, fuck you. Why would there be a save spot in the village? It's 4 screens away. Are the puzzles in the dungeon good? No. Is there any kind of treasure chest like the compass? No. Does the game even tell you what rooms you've been in and what rooms you haven't? Yes, it does do that. It's very useful because you can look at like, okay, there's the door there and I haven't been to that room. So therefore I know I can go there to explore until you find the dungeon map. And then it just fills in all the rooms. And suddenly finding the dungeon map in a treasure chest is actually upsetting. It's like, oh, fuck. Because before that, I could figure out if I had opened this room or not. I could just look at the map and go, I haven't been there. Let's go find out. Does every room have something to do in it? No. Are there rooms that you literally just walk through and nothing happens? Yeah. Yeah, there are. Are the dungeons well thought out and long? Nope. One of them was 10 minutes. Was it good? No. Were there puzzles in it? Arguably. So if you've been around for a long time, you remember my argument that Link Between Worlds puzzles were basically like written for someone who doesn't understand the idea of a puzzle. Not doesn't know how to solve them, but who has never heard of the concept. It's like, hey, the most difficult puzzle is we've put a button under one of these pots. Go find it. About a third of the rooms in this game are buttons under a pot. Go find it. And I'm not being facetious. There is an alarming number of rooms in the dungeons that are just button under pot. Why? I don't know. I have no idea. I literally no idea. It is the most baffling thing. So it's just this weird, like, I've heard of Zelda before. I can make a Zelda. I love Zelda games. And just none of the execution's any good. And the handful of decisions they actually made are all wrong. Like, all of them are wrong. It's remarkable. Here's the real kicker. I found a secret item, which you have to go into this underground area that is like off the beaten trail, and then you have to remove an obstacle that hides the fact there's a ladder there. And then you go down into a room that's like a library underground, and it's full of ducks with very long legs. There's no joke there. It's just very large ducks with extremely long, like stilted legs. And in one of the rooms down there, that you have to solve a simple puzzle, which amounts to throw a bomb at a cracked wall. You go in there and there's a treasure chest and you open it and you get a helmet that you can wear that decreases damage. And you talk to the duck and he goes, it doesn't really fit me anyway. So that's pretty cool. A helmet you can wear that decreases damage. Well, it decreases damage from projectiles. That's a pretty useful skill because almost all the bosses
I thought you were going to say it decreases damage from ducks.
From ducks, and hopefully. It's all projectile damage. Your regular damage doesn't do a goddamn thing. So that's actually a really useful skill because almost every single boss is projectile based. He lied because it takes up your item slot. Which means you can't attack the boss for the most part. Because almost no bosses are vulnerable to the spear unless you do something else. It's just stupid. It's just constantly wrong. So there was a game that came out, started with a K on Switch. It was also a retro Zelda like Kamiko, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
I strongly recommend that game. I still do. Cause I think it's really good. And it has ideas that are obviously Zelda inspired, but they do their own thing. And Fly High Works is actually like, makes competent things or publishes competent things, and Skipmore makes competent games. This is not that. Do not look at that, because I can understand looking at that and going, oh, this looks like Kamiko. I enjoyed that game. Do not be fooled like I was. The best looking thing is the pixel art of the main character. Even the story is ridiculous, because the idea is the prince was kidnapped by a witch. So you get to the last dungeon, and you fight the boss, and you unlock, and even the boss doesn't respawn. So if you kill her first form, it doesn't respawn. She's just in her second form in the room. It's weird. There's a boss that has two enemies, And if you kill one, the other one just goes back to his corner. It's very strange. So you get to the prince, and he's been sleeping in this tower. And you walk up to him, and literally she goes, ellipses, hi. And he responds, oh, hi. And she goes, hi. The end. That's the plot. That's the whole plot of the game. That's fucking what? Fucking what? So yeah, this is bad. And I don't understand, because like people are like, oh, this is so good. I'm like, what the fuck are you on? This is fucking terrible. This is extra level bad. Why would you make it this way? Why would you make any of these decisions? All of these decisions are bad. But yeah, that's what this game is. Don't play Saga of the Moon Priestess. It's not worth it. Even if it's $5, your time has value. All 3 hours it will take you to clear it. So besides that, actually, I want to make one correction. If you have the item you get from the final dungeon and leave the final dungeon, you can go to the secret dungeon in the village, and basically you can go deeper every level you clear, because you get a new item that lets you go deeper and deeper into it. And at the bottom, you get an outfit that increases or decreases damage you take by half. It's very useful, and it doesn't sit in your item slot. It's just permanently attached. I beat the boss without it, the boss of the game, and it was a pain in the ass. With it, I just stood there and tanked the shots. But you literally can't get it until you've got the item from that dungeon. So for it to be any good, you'd have to leave halfway through the dungeon, which you wouldn't normally do, because the dungeons only take like 20 minutes. This fucking game. Fucking bad. So beyond that, I played the demo for Mario vs. Donkey Kong. I never played that Mario vs. Donkey Kong. And I really like DK99. So Greg talking about it last week, I was like really excited to go see it. Let me tell you about how I feel coming out of the demo. That demo takes 8 minutes to complete end to end in every last detail, including getting all the presents. It is the slightest demo I have ever seen for anything ever.
It's very short, yeah. It'll be, bear in mind, I think the number they've quoted for this version, which has two apparently completely original worlds that the GBA version did not have, but it says like 130 levels.
Like, they could have done...
and obviously they're not that long, right? These are, 130 quick levels. You generally, a lot of the time, it's almost like single screen type of stuff, or it might have a bit more kind of expansiveness to it than that as it goes on, but it's just quick little kind of puzzle platform thing, oftentimes involving getting a key and then getting to the locked door. Very brief, but yeah, so you've got 4 levels in this demo. I played it as well just to have a quick look, and so yeah, it's a very tiny percentage of the overall game. It's
not even the whole first world. Like, they should just given you the first world. It's
they could
1,
have
3,
done.
and 5.
They certainly could have done. Yeah, I mean, it's some of the other kind of demos that have been put out of things that Nintendo have published have been a fair bit more expansive, and sometimes it's been like, okay, you can take this save into the full game and all this kind of stuff. Clearly not the idea here. He was a very brief taster. Just to get an idea of, the kind of aesthetics and the concept. I get the concept is kind of, something that's probably important to introduce to some people at this point. Like, so, I mean, the original's 20 years old. DK94 was 10 years before that. And, it's, or was it 05 Mario versus DK? I can't remember, somewhere around there. I didn't get it until later. I've said many times, like, there was this period where Japanese GBA games were just dirt cheap because the GBA got its knees taken out, by the DS. So there was just a bunch of unsold, like, carts. So that's how I got it, probably in, like, 06 or something. But, yeah, you need to kind of reintroduce this type of gameplay, because for all the Mario vs. DK games that they were more focused on the kind of Lemmings type thing, which you could see the genesis of that just in the one level that you have here, which is about you as Mario kind of leading the mini Mario toys that you've saved safely into their little toy trunk thing. Like that was like the seed of what became like all the subsequent games, basically, which was about, okay, you've got to guide these kind of, somewhat unwitting kind of characters to an exit. So yeah, it does that, and the music sounds really nice with good high fidelity instruments, and you could see the aesthetic makeover is because it was not a nice looking game with the pre-rendered graphics on the low resolution GBA kind of environment. So it has some value as a demo in that regard, but yeah, there's not much to it.
Yeah, the one thing I would say that caught my attention is the animation in the intro. It's really good. It's crazy good. It's a CG depiction of DK just sitting there being hypnotized by television with his one button TV remote, and eventually seeing an ad for the Mini Mario and just like deciding he's going to go buy them. And he can't. Wrong.
He can't. So then he's like, screw this. The factory's right over there. I'm just going to nick the lot. That did exist, that intro to the original, but they've obviously, adapted it into a, very, very nice CG. But one thing that I'm trying to remember if this was true originally. I'm guessing it probably was, because it seems like it's something very much of the time. But you notice DK's old-timey TV has like a really giant green dial and a smaller red dial, like the A and B buttons of the GameCube at the time.
Yes.
I thought that was cute.
I will say, I think the art style of that animated intro looks way better than the Mario movie. It looks way better. And then it's on brand. Oh, yeah, that DK is a much nicer looking DK model. It just is. So yeah, that's that. So my quest to find something to talk about on this show that's not Trails to Azure ended last night. I finally found the solution, which is I fucking bought Trails to Azure. So look forward to that, because everything I've tried so far bit me in the ass.
There is one other interesting thing, not about the demo, because it's really, really slight, as we mentioned, but the preview coverage I thought was interesting, and this is somewhat, so you can substantiate this from playing the demo, is that the original game, one of its sort of like replay mechanisms, to increase the, kind of replay value of the game, because as we mentioned, these are pretty short levels, and figuring them out once and then you're done kind of thing. They didn't want it to be just that, so they were kind of like medals for kind of getting a better score, and the score was a composite of getting the little presents that are there, which was sort of in DK94 they were like the items from the original DK, like Pauline's parasol or whatever, those sorts of things. But now they're just like generic like parcel presents. But you get all the collectibles, you do it as fast as possible, and you get a score, and then if your score goes over a certain threshold, you get a medal or something. So it's been a while since I played it, but that's the broad thing. Now you could see from the demo straight away there is no score anymore.
No.
Unless that was just absent from the demo. I don't think so. It's just like, okay, they're not doing that. But if you read the preview coverage, people, have clearly been advised, because they don't talk about all of the game yet, obviously, but they have been advised that they can say that there's a time attack mode in it. So it seems like, okay, maybe they've almost skimmed that off, out of it, of like, okay, instead of having the kind of, need to be quick to get a better score and get medals that way, we're going to create a separate time attack mode and have that. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that balances out in terms of, does that make it like more enticing for people to replay? If you've just got this explicit mode that's just like, okay, this is all about doing it quickly, or whether you lost something by kind of not having it as part of an overall score for how well you did the level. We'll see. I thought it was kind of an interesting change, because for the most part, other than some of these, this couple of new worlds and all that, doesn't seem like it's going to be that different, as we talked about last week. I think a lot of the appeal of remaking something like this when it was a GBA game is that you don't really need to change anything, and yet they have decided to change at least something here. So yeah, something to look out for.
Yeah, it's I'm interested in it, but I don't know. I need to see a little more I need to see something before I bite. I feel like this demo might have turned me off more than anything. Just because it like, we say it's slight, but legitimately, I went from starting the demo, I have a timer in the NWR Discord, to it having booted me to the eShop, and it's like 8 minutes and 21 seconds. Which is just fucking crazy. So, yeah. That's all I got.
No, these are clearly really early levels. So it's like, yeah, even the more complex levels don't take that long once you figure them out. But there is at least, at some point it gets complex enough that you might take some time to figure it out. Whereas with this, it's just self-evident.
Right. It's just literally, if you just follow the path in front of you, you will get there. So that was a bummer. Greg, what else have you been up to?
Yeah, not a great deal else really. Just been plugging away at my usual things. F-Zero 99, and I did play that demo, of course. But I did purchase the new Prince of Persia game, but it's not here yet. It's
okay.
I don't know about its commercial fortunes, but pretty quickly it has been available at not huge discounts, because it is very new, but significant ones.
Any discount is worrying.
Significant ones for such an early going. And as we know, with Ubisoft games, even ones that have Mario on the box and everything, they can go very, very low. So I probably could have waited longer and saved a fair bit more money, but I did like the demo in that case, and the reviews and everything made a pretty persuasive case. So yeah, I will be getting that within the next so many days, and hopefully that'll be pretty enjoyable.
That's good. And the spirits that we had last weekend.
True. That was pretty much as you'd expect, but kind of leaves the door open possibly for more still, as we said, when you think of something as sort of major as Mario Brothers Wonder not being covered, and maybe there could be some more third party stuff.
The one for 13 Sentinels was obvious, but still amusing.
Yeah.
So I found a YouTube channel that literally is just all of the spirit fights, which is surreal. Like from the loading screen all the way out. It's just like, what a fucking weird YouTube channel. But also, there's 1,300 videos on it. So you know what? Go with God, I guess. Guillaume.
Yeah.
What are you up to?
I know I talked about Silpheed last week, but I forgot to mention two important things that I'm sure is going to make some people, go and check it out if they haven't already. But that game had digitized speech, so finally you can hear some voice in a video game. So that's pretty cool. And also, like I was showing it to Karen, I hadn't gone back to the intro in a while, so I kind of forgot about this.
Digitized speech. For whatever reason, I heard digitized peach, and I'm like, what the fuck?
No,
okay, I'm
speech.
good. I'm good now.
Sorry,
yes.
I might have
no, you're
misspoken.
fine. You're fine. It was me.
And also, this game starts with like a quote. How many ages hence shall this, our lofty scene, be acted over, in states unborn, and accents yet unknown? So, this is, like, serious stuff. It might be a shoot-'em-up, but, if it quotes from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, you just know it's, like,
it's real shit.
Yeah.
Or somebody had a book, and they're like, I need English text, and they were just brought English text.
Yeah. So that's my Silpheed update. It's still a really cool game. Other than that, like Karen and I have been playing Lego Lord of the Rings. I had bought like a copy at a used game store, and that's one thing that like people seem to be okay with this physical media disappearing. But then, like, stuff like this wouldn't be possible anymore. Like, I wouldn't be able to just find an old-ass game and keep playing it, even though it's not available digitally anymore.
This is the Wii PS3 era. What did you play?
Yeah, so it's on Xbox 360 because it's compatible.
I see.
The unfortunate thing is that like the Lego games, they have gone through an evolution, like a very slow one, a very incremental one, but there's been so many of them that, unless you've been following them and paying attention, like you probably don't know which era of Lego games you're actually getting into when you go back to them. So this is the era when they were taking voice from the movies. So you do hear, Ian McKellen and Elijah Wood and, Wood? What's his name?
Elijah Wood.
Wood
Sean
singular.
Wood.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, and Sean Astin and everyone, like you hear their actual voices, their actual lines, the actual delivery, which is nice because like at this point you're playing an old ass Lord of the Rings Lego game. You're playing it for the nostalgia. You like to be reminded of Sean Astin saying potato, and like that's what you're looking for. So that's good. But unfortunately, it's one of those games where they hadn't figured out the what they wanted, like what worked for a split screen play yet. And so like it does this thing where the screen divides in two when you get far away from each other, and then it goes freaking crazy if you move around like up and down, left and right. Like the split screen is not horizontal, it's not vertical, it is relative to where you are on the screen, and so like it's going to be diagonal, and the angle of the diagonal is going to keep changing as you move around, and it is extremely distracting and annoying. And eventually, like when it actually kind of swings you around, and like you used to be on the right side of the screen, now you're on the left side of the screen. I guess it does make sense to I guess situate yourself on the game screen, but it's disorienting in other ways, and it's pretty annoying. And ultimately, maybe Lego games are not that good. I think maybe we've played enough of them at this point. We kind of fell off, ultimately, trudging through the whatever they're called, swamps and Two Towers with as good as the Gollum's performance was in the movies, maybe the Lego version doesn't really quite do it justice, and we're not really that into it anymore.
The dead marshes, yeah. I'm just imagining like little dead Lego minifigures like floating
underneath the water. Yeah,
I kind of forget if you actually see them. Like I think you just, like your body just explodes when you touch the water or something. Like it's pretty cheap. So that's, sometimes there are disappointments like that also. But in other ways, it's impressive just how much they've reproduced, just replicated this world and kind of tried to, fill it up with lots of stuff to do. But yeah, I think that we're over them. And so we've moved on to the next best thing in terms of mindless, kind of not too challenging action, a co-op action. And that's, we started playing Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity. And yeah, so what are those games called again? There's the genre is called
Musos.
Musos?
Yeah. That's the name of the series in Japan.
Right.
I mean, they're just called Warriors games.
Right. Anyway, so
I'm an expert.
Yes. So it had been a while since we had played one of those. I think the last one we played was Fire Emblem Warriors. And I'm very surprised, like pleasantly surprised by Age of Calamity, because we had touched the previous Hyrule Warriors game, but it was, originally in the Wii U, so kind of held back by that technology. And even though I think that we played the Switch version of that, it made it to the Switch, right?
It did.
Okay.
That's kind of like a best of the 3DS and the Wii U version.
Right. So even though we played that version, it probably had a better frame rate than it did on the Wii U. but it still had that legacy. I'm just hitting 3 fucking enemies on my screen here when we're playing co-op. Like there's a ton of enemies. Like usually it ran well when you were single player, but as soon as you were co-op, like there were actually challenges where it was like kill 300 of this enemy, and we really struggled to do it co-op because the enemies just didn't show up on our screens. And so like sometimes I would have to go back and play it solo, and it would be much easier because the number of enemies was just so much higher. So this one doesn't really have this problem. I'm sure that if I started playing it solo, I would realize like, oh shit, there are a ton of of enemies on the screen, so many more than when we're playing co-op. But the point is, the co-op doesn't suffer as much on the Switch, and that's been a pleasant surprise. I guess I didn't expect the improvement to be that drastic. So it's been a lot of fun. You know, it's less maybe strategy focused in Fire Emblem Warriors, where you actually kind of had to pay attention to who you were sending in battle, where against who. Here it's really just like, hey, there's this flashing yellow point on the map now. You probably want to head that way and do a thing, usually kill enemies, and then wait for the next yellow point to flash on the screen. And yeah, like so, you know, like we can't always be playing 2D beat 'em ups, but I guess because ultimately, you know, there's a finite number of them in the world. I'm sure we could just keep playing them until we ran out, but yeah, it's good to get Musus like this occasionally, which is almost, you know, kind of like a 3D beat 'em up.
Yeah.
Same energy, anyway. So
it's I like this one a lot, and
Yeah.
and it is more sophisticated than, like, that was the first one was the first Nintendo Warriors project, and it showed a little bit, but I mean, it doesn't lack for content. Good Lord, it isn't the most sophisticated game.
No, but yeah. So this one, I guess, fun little story, and I don't know, just enjoying the ride so far. And outside of that, yeah, like I have kept my promise of playing fighting games, and so I moved on. I finished Injustice 1's story. That game was a 360 game. Boy, those faces were messed up. Like the character,
Yeah,
yeah, like
Yep.
they were rough, and so Injustice 2, a generation later, the Xbox One, not quite up to today's standards, but it's this weird freaking thing where I'm not even sure if it's the uncanny effect. It's more like they have these models that have like skin that's fairly realistic and hair that's fairly realistic and faces that are probably modeled after real people. But then I'm not sure if they motion capped the facial expressions, but then like had the what do you call that on the mouse? Like the auto acceleration on the mouse.
Yeah.
Like it's as if they had that turned on, but for face movements. You know, like, yeah, so here we want you to smirk, and then like someone does it, but like they don't realize that there's an acceleration going on, and like you know, all of a sudden like half their face is you know, twisted in a smile.
I wonder if it's like a points of articulation thing, where like there's a finite number that they could do at that point, like the number of places where they can pinch and, you know, do different kinds of transforms to make it work. So they end up having to overemphasize just so you can see it. I don't know.
I don't know, yeah. Or if they had like animators work on the faces, and the animators were like, I work on cartoons, and so they did their work but on human looking models.
I
and just,
also work in cartoons.
Yeah. But anyway, the result is just like no tick, no facial expression is nuanced or small or subtle. it's always cranked up and it's really weird. It's like everyone is Jim Carrey, you know. It's really it's really weird. It works for the Joker.
I was about to say, is the Riddler in then?
Ironically, it doesn't work for the Riddler. No, I don't know. I haven't seen him yet, but
okay.
Yeah. So that's it. I don't really have anything to say about Injustice 2 outside of kind of makes me looking forward even more now to kind of getting around to playing Mortal Kombat, because this team, these people, they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Mortal Kombat game, like the last one I played, was really, really good. Really good.
Yeah, like they seem to really their storytelling has improved a lot, and like they make fun arenas, very interactive, and and the you know, like Injustice has its own kind of fatality, and they're really cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of that.
I'm guessing you're saying I don't get to see Soups pull someone's spinal column out of their body.
No, but everyone does have an attack that looks like it really freaking hurts, you know?
Okay.
And Injustice 1 had, like, something in most stages, and I haven't found that in 2, but I'm kind of wondering if maybe I shouldn't have skipped the training, actually, the tutorial. Maybe, like, I haven't been triggering it, but, like, in the first one, you just, like, send someone flying through several walls and then, like, kind of falling off a cliff, and it was very, like, Homer missing the Evel Knievel, the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, like, it was, it looked like it hurt, and, so it's cool. It's really well done. I'm having fun.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it's finally fucking time for some predictions. So,
thank God.
I predict you should stay tuned. 5. No, hold on. No. We all hate doing this. Why are you thank God?
Stop thank God.
I'm trying to convince myself.
It's because it's going to be over soon. That's why.
So during this time, we did this first so I could get my shit in order. I've deleted more things than I've put in order. So this is going great. All right. On that, here we go. It's time. It's the time we all hate. We all hate it, but we're going to do predictions, and how we're going to do it this year, a little bit different. We're gonna roll around on a couple topics. So I know you want us to talk about fucking new hardware. We're not going to do that out of the gate. We're just not. We'll get to it. We're gonna queue that up for everybody so that it can come up and we can talk about it sort of collectively and have a conversation about it. Otherwise, people might just throw their prediction in wherever, and it's going to get all willy-nilly. So we're going to start with the first topic, which is the most timely and very well may prove to be wrong before we even get a chance to get this episode to your ear holes. And gentlemen, that is the simple question of Nintendo has published a Nintendo Direct most Februarys. I don't think all of them in the last 5 to 10 years. And so the question is this going to be a continuation of that more or less trend? Will there be a February Direct, which means a Direct sometime between now and 28 days from now?
I believe so.
And your justification?
I just think there's enough interest out there. I think this is what I think is that they could get interest in games just because they can capitalize on the thirst for Switch 2 news. So I think I just think they could take advantage of it because people are looking for anything from Nintendo at this point because everybody wants to know when the Switch 2 will be released. So Nintendo could just say, well, we're not going to say anything about the Switch 2 or not even mention the Switch 2 and just say, yes, this is just going to be some new games coming up, and everybody would flock to it.
This would be their like will be announced would be a Direct covering games coming to Switch between now and I don't know, usually it'd be like the first 6 months of 2024.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's that's I think if you were in a normal year or a year that we entirely expected to be normal, I think the February Direct would be like a really sure bet. because in so many ways we're in very much the same position as we were last February, where it's like, okay, they had a few games that we knew were going to fill out, the first quarter of this calendar year or the last quarter of the fiscal year, however you want to look at it, and then a couple of other games beyond that don't have specific release dates yet. For this year, obviously, we already had another code. Mario vs. DK is February. And then, in March, we've got another game. Which one was it again? Princess Peach. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, you've got Princess Peach. That's already confirmed for March. But, beyond that, then you've got your 1,000 Year Door and Luigi's Mansion 2 HD versions, which are kind of somewhere beyond that. You wouldn't think too far beyond it, but we don't know exactly where. That's basically the position we're in last year. So it's like, the kind of need for a February Direct to start sketching in the rest of the year is pretty much the same. But the difference is, there could be at some point this year a hardware announcement, and then that could kind of change how they're going to approach the year. And also the fact that we may be into really deep into this transitional period now may affect how many more things they've got to actually kind of fill out the rest of the year that they can talk about in February if they're not yet going to talk about the next platform.
So the good news is that we're not to that part yet. There is so Nintendo themselves have on their thing called release schedule 2024. February. So the 16th is Mario vs. Donkey Kong. 22nd is the Joy-Con Pastel Pink Pack and Princess Peach Showtime. And then they have release TBD summer 2024 Luigi's Mansion 2 HD and 2024 Paper Mario the 1,000 Year Door subcolon. Will you please stop talking about 1,000 Year Door now?
But I mean, I do think there's a very good chance that we'll see a Direct quite soon. It very well could be the week, following the publication of this episode. I think, for instance, you look at the fact that they confirmed the release date of the Side Order DLC for Splatoon 3. Finally, they did that, right? It's been making fun of the fact that, they took your money for, a cosmetic change to the hub a year ago or whatever it was, and gave very little detail on, the actual substance in that DLC pack, which is the Side Order kind of single player stuff. But when they did it, it was with absolutely no detail whatsoever, minimal, just like another little movie, kind of previewing it, but with no real sort of gameplay footage or details or anything like that. So they've got a very limited amount of time now. It's basically 3 weeks from when we started this recording to say, to actually fill that out. So, that's gotta happen. And then, Princess Peach is sort of similar. They gave a very tiny little update on that, to kind of move the ball down the field a little bit with, there's gonna be Cowgirl Peach and there's gonna be Ninja Peach. But, February Direct would be very well timed to kind of fill out a little bit on the things we do know about, in terms of the substance of those particular games that we do have release dates for and why you should buy them. And then maybe actually give release dates for the ones that are currently on the schedule, but without an actual date. But I suppose the other part then you've got to consider is, okay, well, what else could be in this? And I think we'll so set aside anything about new hardware for the time being. And I still kind of think it's probably too early, even if it is going to come at some point this year. The February Direct, if someone were to exist, is probably too early. So if you leave that aside, well, what could they have in a February Direct? And I think the first thing that we've already talked about before is NSO stuff, right? They've pretty much cleared the decks on GBA that they were obliged to do, the N64. So you've got to have some sort of update on that score. And I would be expecting things like Zero Mission, as we've talked about before. I would be expecting more rare N64 games, because I mean, if you're going to go to the effort of having something like a Jet Force Gemini, which they did at the end of last year, it just feels to me like, well, wouldn't you want some of the other stuff as well? So I mean, for instance, they are going to be opening up the DK expansion for the Universal Studios in Japan. So what better way to celebrate than to bring back DK64?
Of course, yes.
It's all coming together.
God damn
Although
it.
maybe they want to keep that for a remake.
What better way than
I don't, but
not good game?
I do think that sort of stuff is a good way of having something, that you could talk about at this juncture for Switch players to think about for the rest of the year is N64 games, GBA games on expansion pack, but probably other again, we've talked about this, remakes, ports seems really likely. I would have thought more things in the vein of Pikmin 1 and 2. That kind of thing where it's like, okay, yeah, it's up-resed and all that, but that's about as far as it goes. Like, I think one possibility in that domain could be to tie into last year's February Direct a little bit. Maybe, a Metroid Prime 2 and 3 that does not have, the kind of a graphical overhaul that last year's remaster did for the original game, but maybe something that just collects the two of them together and says, here you go, with the control options that you kind of had for the remastered game, perhaps. I could consider something like that. Other potential options could be, I suppose, maybe give more consideration now to the possibility of F-Zero GX coming back, because they've acknowledged that F-Zero exists, but I still don't think it's that likely at this stage.
No. All right. So, my gut is yes, probably on the Direct. So but I want to put two caveats out there. One, any person telling you right now they know when a Direct's coming is a liar. You know why? Because they've all been proven wrong in the relatively recent past. So don't listen to them. In fact, if somebody says, oh, the Direct's coming, that person should now be ignored, even if they're right. You know why? They're picking February because I already told you why. Nintendo's historically done February pretty much every year. I went through the Nintendo Direct page. They did one on the 8th. They did one on the 9th. They did one on the 13th. I'm just going through years. They did one on the 12th. Like, they basically, it's predicting that there will be one in February is free space in bingo. You know what you don't get in bingo? You don't get a pat on the back for getting the free space. It's the free space. So, This is a great thing to predict. You go, I did it. I even predicted the date right, because guess what? They usually do it the second or the first full week of February. Look at the dates I gave you. Those all happen to be the first time we had like a Wednesday or a Tuesday on a full week in February. The 8th was a Wednesday. The 13th was a Wednesday, I believe. I went through and looked at all that. I don't remember what it was. So, yeah, it's probably going to be, if I look at the calendar, the first Wednesday or Thursday after the first Monday in February. Which, guess what? We didn't have a Monday in February this week. Today is the fucking 1st on Thursday, which means you're looking at the 7th or the 8th. Did you notice I already said the 8th? Yeah, because it's already happened once, because that's when it fell in the year. Ha-ha! So, predicting that there's going to be one next week, don't give anyone any credit for that. That's like predicting the sun's going to rise. Congratulations, you accomplished nothing. So, there's a lot of predictions. If I'm Nintendo, I fucking wait till March to burn every one of those sons of bitches. I do it just for fun. This goes back to my idea that Nintendo should have never announce when the directs are and just have a Twitch channel that runs 24/7. I think that would be very funny. But just March 1st, just like drop it on a March 1st. Be like, the Star Directors, you thought we were going to do it last month, didn't you? Ha-ha. And then just go into it. Because business should be run as a petty operation. So, what would they cover in this Direct? Well, I think we already talked about the games that we know about, the ones that have dates that are coming up. I think Showtime, they've kind of been exposing a little bit already, so they probably don't need to spend a ton of time on it, but they're going to be cognizant of the fact that the platform that they're going to be showing it in, pun not intended, is bigger than the ones that they've been sort of drip feeding into. And you could make the same argument about Mario versus DK, but again, I think it would be one of those, like, it's coming soon.
Mario vs. DK is so close. I think that'll get less.
I think it just get like a passing mention. Yeah,
it's like it's coming soon. There's a demo available. That's it. I think Peach would probably get more play than that. And again, it's more to be filled in terms of the nature of the game because of all these all these different costumes, different modes. Like, how does it actually work? Yeah. Like, there's more there to be filled in.
Even that last trailer was like weirdly not detailed in what the actual gameplay cycle is.
No. So it's like, here's another couple of outfits. Oh, and don't forget the outfits we've already shown. And that's about it. It was very minor. And so, it kind of, just kind of reminds people that that's on the way and it's the first step, but there's more to be accomplished.
The little gremlin with her got a name too, although I don't remember what it was. But Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, I think getting a date for that. I think Paper Mario Shut the Fuck Up Edition getting a date would be really good. But I think primarily this thing would focus on third-party stuff. And there is third-party stuff to focus on. Unicorn Overlord is a major partner for Nintendo. It's coming out in a month and 6 days. Am I counting down the days? Yeah. There's the next South Park game coming out. This one is 3D. It's very weird. I don't know why they went this route. That comes out at the end of March. Eden Chronicles 100 Heroes is finally coming out in April. There's the Touch Detective compilation, including 3, which never came out here, coming out at the dead-ass end of March.
Published by Nicholas.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
just going to have to fucking swallow my pride and deal with it, because I love that series.
Yeah, if it comes out at all. There's no guarantee here.
But they're not doing that much with this one, so there's a limited amount of their ability to fuck it up. That's what I'm hoping for. But there's a bunch of stuff that is coming out soon from third parties. Like, this could almost be a partner direct, but they have a little bit of stuff they're going to want to talk about, so they're going to talk about it. There's probably, we've talked about it before, remakes that are upcoming, and I might sit on that for my next prediction, but I've got some thoughts in that space.
I will say one third-party thing that I could see being a sort of insta-drop in that direct is the Contra game that they showed in a previous broadcast, the Operation Galuga, because that, at the end of last year, I think they were just sort of saying it's going to have an early 24 release without specifying a month or anything. But even this far into February, for it still not to have a specific date, I'm thinking it's a candidate for that kind of thing. And it's available now type of deal, which, aesthetically it didn't look that kind of gorgeous, but I certainly like Contra 4, was way forward made for Konami many years ago now. So it could be enjoyable.
So I actually had another candidate for that, which was Penny's Big Breakaway, which is an early 2024 game from that's being published by Private Division, but I believe it's from the team that made the Sonic
Mania.
Sonic Mania, yeah. But it doesn't have a date. It's early 2024. That feels like the kind of thing that could get an It's Available Now drop. Very much related, Freedom Planet 2 is scheduled to come out in April, I believe, early April.
Yep.
The show comes out in mid-March. That's got a date. There's enough stuff here that they could talk about to really fill up the time. Plumbers Don't Wear Ties comes out March 5th. If you buy that, I hope everything bad happens to you and only you. There's enough stuff out there that they could fill up a space with. And honestly, it feels like, to John's point, they would just be filling up a space. This is about, hey, we know we can get people's eyes on games that they might not otherwise see.
Well, that is the direct formula in general. Like, it's just like, hey, you've got almost like this captive audience. But yeah, with the extra intrigue this year about surrounding the potential for new hardware and stuff may only sort of amplify what is always kind of in operation in that regard.
But I do think they would have a couple, we'll call them Twilight era games to talk about. And when we get to our next round, I've got some predictions I'll drop in that space. Who hasn't given us their February Direct? Yes, no. Guillaume?
Yeah, well, I don't really care that much about Directs in the end, so I guess my prediction is that there won't be a Direct in February.
Okay. No, I love this.
Yeah, in fact, there's not going to be one for a while, I'm sorry to say, because turns out that you can, in 2024, you can reuse calendars from 1996, and I just checked back, and there was no Direct in February in 1996. And
does that mean Super Mario RPG is going to come out again?
Yes.
Yeah, they might have jumped the gun a little bit on that one, I suppose.
But now they're just going to have to go, oh, well, so still, we've got to follow through and release it again.
Of course. So they still have the option of releasing it on the NSO.
It's 1996. Well, what do we got? Maybe they're just going to re-release all the 1996 games. So we're going to get like Mole-Mania and Pokemon Red and Blue. It's coming.
Yeah, and the N64, I'm excited.
That is another thing I think that should be a pretty safe bet. The end of February, Pokemon Presents. That has become kind of an annual kind of thing. Isn't it the Pokemon Day, essentially the release date of, as you mentioned, of those games. So yeah, red and green, I guess, in Japan originally. So I think you could certainly expect one of those. And I think obviously there's got to be something Pokemon. Obviously, we had the expansion for Scarlet and Violet at the end of last year. But, if you're thinking about it cyclically, by the end of 24, it's going to be 3 years on from the Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl remakes. And almost, because it was very early in the year, that it'd be almost 3 years on from Legends Arceus as well. So I think probably the safest bet would be something again from because they had a different studio make Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, Ilka.
Right.
So it seems like the whole point of that really, because don't forget, there was 7 years from Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire to Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. So that's just too long, really, for the Pokemon companies.
Yeah, because those games sold a lot of copies.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously those generations originally were only 3 years apart, yeah?
Right.
So, 7 years for the remakes to be apart, that's clearly just, Game Freak struggling to cope with the workload of everything.
Is it Black and White is the next one up?
That's what I was going to say. You'd think Black and White seems like it's the safest bet there to fill this year. I mean, there are other options. As we said, you could have another Legends game. You could have another Let's Go game, to go back earlier into the Switch's life, where they Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu, remaking the original generation again, but maybe applying that to, the second generation this time or something. But I definitely feel like the safer bet is, look, you made the kind of what was unprecedented step of saying, okay, let's give the old generation remakes to a separate studio under our supervision to kind of get these on track again and stuff. So I would have thought, possibly that coming around in a more timely fashion this time, 3 years on Pokemon Black and White. How they kind of factor Black 2 White 2 into that and all that, I don't know. That would seem like a pretty safe bet. Something like that being announced at a Pokemon Presents at the end of February.
Hopefully with a pinball game. That's my only wish for
get that on NSO. Absolutely, the two of them, the original GBC game and the GBA game would be nice.
Or a brand new one. Just saying.
Well, that's. I mean, it isn't too much to hope for, and yet my instinctive reaction is that it is too much to hope for.
Yeah.
So I do think we're in the market because we just finished the DLC for the last Pokemon game. So it's unlikely they've got anything new in the chute. I do think one of my predictions in this space was some kind of Pokemon spinoff. You know, we got Detective Pikachu last time with 3DS, but that's now. We've gotten a Switch game that
we got the sequel. Yeah, because we already touched on this last week. Like, it is, if you're trying to just say, okay, what did they do at the end of 3DS, and then extrapolate that to what could they do with Switch? They've already done it. They've Kirby ports, Luigi's Mansion, Detective Pikachu. The only sort of exception is Fire Emblem, because they actually Engage is an original game rather than like a remake. Where at the end of 3DS you had Shadows of Valentia, the Echoes remake.
Which is so good. Why do we not get another Echoes? It's so good.
One thing I'll say about it, and the one that you could say, well, they've kind of already been in the Fire Emblem world. The only thing that makes it maybe possible that there could also be an Echoes thing is that, by all accounts, that Fire Emblem game had been done for a while. And like the DLC was just like it was out really fast, because again it was just like seemingly
it was
the
out
game
on
was
day
done.
one. It launched with the first wave of the DLC.
So and especially because presumably developer duties would not be like a perfect overlap anyway. It's probably be a different studio involved in doing that. I don't think a Fire Emblem remake and another whether you've got any interest in having that Echoes branding anymore or not. Another Fire Emblem remake, I think it's kind of possible, but yeah, it's still a little soon after Engage, but I wouldn't rule it out.
So we've gotten Smile and we've gotten Sleep. So that's about teeth and getting enough rest. What health function can Pokemon track for you? I'm thinking it's Pokemon Step, which is part of Pokemon Go already, but it doesn't really have a fitness tracker and steps. It does it, but what if they introduce? Of course,
it's been done before with the Pokewalker.
Exactly. But it doesn't have to be creative. They just need to sell it to you again. Yeah. So it's a new they're trying to get some juice back into the Pokemon Go. So that's one option. What if it does more than just what if you could track all your exercises in there? And so there's an AR mode where you can watch Pokemon work out with you, because phones can do that now.
Pokebetic, it monitors your blood sugar.
Jesus Christ.
Well, hey, they wanted to watch you while you sleep, so why not?
I want Pokemon to watch me while I sleep. I think they would be very bored, but if they want to, whatever. There's probably some dietary stuff they could do with Pokemon, but that's hard to track. But legitimately, a Pokemon app that gives you exercise stuff, I could absolutely see them do it.
I mean, I could see something. You know what? I could see like a crossover with Apple for the Apple Watch or something like that with Pokemon.
Yeah, potentially.
I could see that.
But they'd be stuck in the walled garden. But yeah, I could see some degree of that kind of stuff. What
do they care if it's Apple's walled garden? You know?
Well, I mean, that doesn't help them so much out, in other markets. There are markets where Android would be a good place to be, but
for sure.
I think on the console space, I do think we're probably due a spin-off of some kind or another. It's probably a new spin-off. Because they do a couple of those per console cycle, and we haven't really had much in the way of hey, this is a brand new type of spin-off for the Pokemon series in a while. So coming up with something new and putting that out rather than just here's another Pokemon Channel 2. God, Pokemon Channel 2 would be really funny. Just something in there.
Didn't they just cancel the Pokemon Channel?
They
or
canceled.
Are we just talking? Different kind of channel?
I'm talking about the GameCube quote game Pokemon Channel.
Right.
But I think there's definitely a Pokemon spinoff that will get announced sometime in the near-ish at the next Pokemon Direct opportunity.
But I hadn't been following that, and because I don't watch the anime, but didn't they launch an app to just watch the anime all the time, and they've recently closed that because they're okay.
Yeah, they did. But this is for more I was thinking more about the stupid game where you watch your Pokemon watch TV.
They're finally going to do the Meowth's party thing from the GameCube video. Do you remember that? He's just Meowth strumming a guitar. Let's go.
Pokemon Master Sex needs an update, so there'll definitely be a direct update for that. How does that happen? I'm sorry. You can't be that stupid. They've got to do stuff to force people to continue to pay for their Pokemon subscription, whatever the current name for the Pokemon subscription service is. It's changed names so many fucking times. Is that one Ranch? I can't remember. I can't remember what they call it now.
That Netflix Pokemon Concierge show that's supposed to be cozy and people like it.
Yeah.
And so what about a game that has either this look or that has you play, the role of whoever, whatever's happening in that show.
Cafe Mix, or I think they renamed it to Cafe Remix at this point, does have a certain amount of that one. It's a certain amount of that cozy vibe to it. So that, Cafe Remix getting a mode from that would actually not be that surprising. I think it would actually work pretty well. And that's a Genius Sonority game, which is essentially like Nintendo Pocket Company. So them doing something like that would make a lot of sense, to be honest. Because they've already relaunched it once, because it was originally Cafe Mix. Maybe we're getting a new Battle Troze. That's it. We're getting new Pokemon Troze, everybody's favorite. Genius Sonority made the Denpamen, they came by wave. What about Pokemon? They came by wave. Fuck it. Let's go. Let's get wild. Let's get crazy with it. No, I think some kind of mini game thing is coming, and we're just gonna have to deal with it. Have there ever been a Pokemon music game? I feel like there's enough like memorable Pokemon music.
You had some Pokemon songs in the Game Freak music game for 3DS. What was that called again?
Rhythm. No, it was. You know what you're talking about. I'm blanking on what it was called.
Yeah, clearly, but that's as close as I can think of.
Harmonite, that's it.
Harmonite, yes, that's it. Yeah, so that's as close as we've got, as far as I'm aware.
I think there's enough content at this point they could make a Pokemon themed music game.
It is a curious thing that I've found out by way of the eShop's upcoming games section, that there is a Azure Striker Gunvolt rhythm game coming, and yet there hasn't been just a Pokemon one. That's mad.
I mean, music is like a key plot conceit in that universe.
I've not played them, but yeah, it still does make a certain amount of sense. But still, you know what I mean.
So that's where I'm going to land on it, is that we're going to get a Pokemon music rhythm game of some kind or another. I mean, for fuck's sake, we've got like 8 ones from Square Enix at this point. Just license the engine and put Pikachu in.
You're not getting further away from me, X Party here.
No, I'm not. But I'm not trying to. But just take out Sora and his fucking clown shoes and put Pikachu's model in and call it a day. Mission accomplished. Sell it and go. I'm here to solve problems, is basically what it comes down to. All right, so let's talk about some other Switch titles that you might want to pick. We've kind of already leaked into this. John, you got something?
Well, yeah. I mean, my thought is, I think this will be the last Christmas for this iteration of the Switch. Right?
Yeah, okay.
I realize this, but I think we're finally going to see a Xenoblade Chronicles X remaster.
Oh my God. Christmas. Be still my heart.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. And the reason why I think that is because I feel like it's the last thing that they could really do this Christmas to really make an impact that would get people buzzing. Because everything else
just got abandoned.
Yeah, that's exactly. And also, like, when I think about like what could come out this Christmas, assuming that it is the last Christmas for Switch, I don't think it's going to be a 3D Mario game. I think that's. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Everything else has been done pretty much.
Well, should we just address this now? Metroid Prime 4, are we seeing it this year?
Are we seeing? Oh, hold on. Are we seeing it? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't mean is it going to release this year? I mean, do we finally see something of it at all?
That is a kind of an implication there in my prediction, is that Metroid Prime 4 will not come out this year.
Okay.
Right.
But you think we might see it?
I think we may see something from it. I don't know if we'll actually see it.
That's literally because we have not seen it in approaching a decade.
I think it'll come.
So is it 7 years since the 7 years?
Something like that.
I can't believe the 4. It's been that long. That is just crazy.
Since the 4, yes. Since
7 years since the 4, and 5 years since the reboot. we done goofed up there, and actually we're rebooting development with a different developer, and it's just 5 years since that is long enough, isn't it? So I do feel like we'll see something of it this year.
If that is the Christmas game, I would be incredibly surprised.
I guess it's an interesting point that you made, John, about impact. Like, what impact can you make with a Switch game at this point? Obviously, it's limited because we are about to enter Switch's 8th year on the market. You know, so they've done.
I'm just thinking beyond getting into Fantasyland with stuff.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, they've done so much. They've hit so many of the things we expect them to hit, but Metroid Prime 4 is something that they've talked about for almost that entire time, or pretty much that entire time, they haven't delivered it. So that is something that could, you ask, what could you do at this late stage that would still have some sort of impact? I mean, that is, I think, something, even not to overstate its impact, because, it is still kind of a bit of a niche thing, but there is still, I feel like that's something there. Like you said, Xenoblade X is a fantastic game that certainly is deserving of getting, a kind of life raft off of Wii U. But, would it be quite the same? Perhaps not, because, you have at least had very different, but, Xenoblade Chronicles games, 2 of them on, Switch, as well as the remaster of the original. So I feel like it's a candidate for that. But then you've got the question of, is it better saved for the successor system? Could it be a candidate for the old cross-platform strategy? Obviously this is something that happened to both Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild, where it's like, when you promised it for so kind of long for one system that they almost felt obliged, like they had to still do it for the Wii and the Wii U, for the GameCube and the Wii U, respectively, even though they didn't really care about that anymore. So the fact is, that you could be a similar situation with Metroid Prime 4, in the sense they might think, we might prefer in some ways if it was just a Switch successor game, but because we talked about it for so many years, we feel like we almost have to make it for the Switch and its successor. It could be something like that.
And the timing of it, it feels weird to me. Like, I guess timing-wise, I could see it coming this Christmas, or maybe even in the summer. Maybe it'll be the big summer game. But it feels, saying, okay, it's going to come out for the Switch too, I don't really buy that either, because it just feels like it would have to be completely rebooted probably within the last year or so to at least have the specs of the new hardware. And, if you're going to hit launch, I don't know. It's just the timing.
Yeah, in terms of those, in terms of those past examples with the Zelda games, obviously the hardware involved, from GameCube to Wii and from Wii U to Switch, it was not that different in terms of raw power. So, we don't know yet how different it's going to be with the Switch successor, but it could be substantially different. And that brings in a whole different sort of, can of worms in terms of how kind of adaptable or how viable, kind of cross-platform games would be. Personally, I don't think Nintendo is going to be that enthusiastic about having a bunch of games that play on both Switch and the new system. Here's a new release, but it's not entirely exclusive to the successor. I think they're going to try and make almost everything that they can exclusive to the new system once the time comes. But I guess Prime 4 could be an exception just because of the outright weirdness of its pre-release, marketing and messaging.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about some non-Metroid game predictions I've got for Switch. Because I legitimately, for Metro Prime 4, I can't talk about it until we get through the next phase of this conversation. So I'm just gonna talk about some stuff here. We are overdue for an Animal Crossing spinoff. We are over fucking due for an Animal Crossing spinoff. Animal Crossing on Switch sold 800 trillion copies. Don't check me on that.
Yeah, I could see that being the big game this year. I could see that.
So I don't know if a spinoff is going to meet big game status. We are definitely overdue for some kind of Animal Crossing spinoff.
Yeah, that is certainly something that was in the late 3DS playbook that we haven't got to yet. I mean, well, it wasn't like the real tail end of 3DS, I guess, like Happy Home Designer, but it was still
Happy House Arrest.
It was getting towards the end, wasn't it? Yeah.
And the funny thing is that game basically got folded into the Switch game. Like its core content is there now. And then on the Wii U, we got a spin-off because they weren't going to make a Animal Crossing for Wii U. We got
as we talked about last week, that was well past the point of them they'd seen how the sales were, and it's like no, with projects like that are not going to be worth great. They'd still had to follow through on stuff that was that far along, like Mario Kart 8 and so forth, Mario Maker, but the stuff like Animal Crossing where, it wasn't that far along, it's like, no, that's not happening. Wii U now, do a spin-off instead. And that's what they did.
We also had things like the Animal Crossing Plaza on Wii U. And then Pocket Camp came out on phones. It's like 6 years old now. Pocket Camp's been around for a long time. And they're still putting content into it. So it's not like they've ignored it. Same with Fire Emblem. The Fire Emblem mobile game is still going, which is wild for a mobile game. I think we're due a piece of Animal Crossing content on Switch. I don't know what it is. I'm not in a position that I feel like I can predict it. I feel like it would be something that drives to the creative impulses of the people who play those games, though. Something that it's something you can do in this space that is creative and sort of meets the needs. I think thinking about like what they did with Happy Home Designer, where you would design homes for people based on their requests, but the AI was real garbage. So you could just be like, I want something fun for my kid. And you could fill it with skulls and fire. And they'd be like, this is great. I think something where like you design outfits for them or something like that, something relatively minor, but leans into the ability to create patterns and use existing patterns and come up with things that are fun, I think presents a real opportunity. I'm not predicting it's going to be something that specific, but I do think an Animal Crossing spinoff is well overdue. And then in terms of like, hey, what about the remasters we haven't got? What about Galaxy 2? What about Galaxy 1? What about the re-release of the individual components they bundled up into a platform?
I guess that's the thing. You could kind of bring Galaxy 1 back in a Galaxy 1 plus 2 pack, much like what I was saying about Pikmin 1 and 2, potentially Prime 2 and 3. They'd have to sell them
separately, though, because a lot of people bought Galaxy 1 already.
Yeah. No, I mean, we could have a pack and then maybe have separate purchases as well. Like, if you did a physical release, the way they did for Pikmin, for instance, that could have both, because it's probably aimed at the collector's market, but then have separate purchases available for people who just maybe want to buy Galaxy 2.
And again, like they could re-release the other games on that thing, Mario 64. There are no other games on that collection.
I think the NSO's got that covered, so I don't know what you're talking about.
But you could sell it again. What if you sold it again? No, I do think having played it, the Mario 64 version in there is better than what you would get in the NSO.
It's got a little bit more kind of cleaning up going on, I guess, but the NSO version is fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's fine.
It's actually mapped to the Switch controller more natively. Like,
as we've said many times, the way that the NSO apps handle button mapping is kind of silly, but there's ways around it. But yeah, it's still silly.
Yeah, it's not just that it's mapped right. It's they calibrated it to the Switch controllers. More so than, because there's some weirdness anytime you're dealing with a modern controller being mapped, especially something like the N64 where it had that.
Yeah, I think they've made some progress with updates to the NSO expansion pack N64 app, but yeah, there's often likely to be some kind of inaccuracies or whatever there. So I don't know whether I played Mario 64, most recently on that 3D All-Star. So, it seemed pretty good, but, Yeah, like I said, I would have thought, Galaxy 2 is another one of those games from that era that could be, for GameCube and Wii, that they've got, some sort of emulation, kind of upscaling port, framework ready to go that they could just apply to games from that era. Still plenty of work involved. I'm not trying to suggest it's, some sort of copy and paste exercise, but one must assume, that those are the sorts of projects at this point that are more likely to kind of get greenlit to fill a spot in the run up to whenever the next system arrives, because, again, the top line development assets have clearly been moved on to the successor system at this point. Because, I don't think anything is more clearly indicative of that than the sort of seeming lack of DLC plans for Tears of the Kingdom and Mario Brothers Wonder. Normally, those games would undoubtedly have had a DLC plan fully sort of ready to go when the games came out as a way of leveraging the great enthusiasm over those games into further monetization. They did not have that because those developers' time is too valuable at this point. It's just like, no, you need to move on to making the killer apps for the next system.
Even something like Pikmin 4, after it came out and for that series, killed. Like, that would be the kind of thing where they might then turn around and go, okay, DLC. And they are not. There's not going to be DLC for Pikmin 4, even though it feels like they could very easily do it. And then I was thinking, like, okay, what series can we get a remaster or like an upgrade with some stuff in it? And I think I've got the option directly in front of me. We're overdue for a Kirby spinoff. That's just the way things go with Kirby. We get a Kirby game a year, and it's been a little while.
Last year we had a port with that was March, right? That was in Princess Peach's place last year. Yeah. So this year a different kind of spin-off sounds plausible.
And we had Dream Buffet too, didn't we?
Yeah, that was still like kind of tied in with like ostensibly something to do with the anniversary of the series, right?
Yeah. But that's again, that's free space. Nobody gets credit for predicting Kirby product. No, I'm here putting a foot down and say we need a new sports game. It's been a little while, but I don't mean a Mario sports game. I mean, we're getting fucking Punch-Out, baby. Getting Punch-Out, we remastered with the Donkey Kong side content.
Donkey Kong Punch-Out, come on. I mean, DK, I think, has to be...
I thought you were going to, like, Kirby Punch-Out here, and I was like, how does that...
Kirby Punch-Out would be...
Kirby doesn't understand the rules of boxing. He would get disqualified immediately. No, I think it's the Wii Punch-Out plus the Doc Lewis thing all together. One package.
Yeah. I mean, that's another one from that era that's kind of out there. I guess there is the anachronism of the national stereotypes and all that. But I mean, maybe if they put it out as a sort of low profile thing at the back end of the system, it goes under the radar or whatever.
It's fine. And again, it's next level, and I imagine next level, given the success of Luigi's Mansion 3, is probably pretty busy on, I don't know, something else, who can say. Especially now that they're an internal studio, but that's very easily a project you could hand over to an outside party, and you just keep an eye on them.
Some sort of Mario Sports spin-off also could be in play, because that's a pretty tried and true thing to fill out a spot when the system
Mario and
is...
Sonic at the Paris 2024 games?
Yes, that happened. I mean, obviously, there was the Tokyo game for the, spectacularly ill-fated Tokyo games 4 years ago, but I have not heard anything about that, because normally...
I think the series is dead. I think
normally it's out by now, right?
Well, Alpha Dream went bankrupt, so...
It's like 2019. I think it was a 2019 game, right? The Mario Sonic at Tokyo, and then of course the other games didn't happen in 20. But so it should be out by now if it was on its old release pace. But certainly some kind of Mario Sports that it just is generally like, okay, we're struggling for like they've already had like a Mario Party constituted by past boards, so that they've done that. It's about and I guess there was was Mario Strikers a bit ago, so maybe you could say they've already done that. But there was the Superstars game on 3DS that was a bunch of sports kind of cobbled together, and of course Ultra Smash on Wii U. So it is one of the sort of lowest effort things a lot of the time, isn't it?
I would be very interested in. I think Mario and Sonic at the Olympics ran into a problem where three groups had to get their beak wet, and if you're dealing with the Olympics, 10 people have to get paid. So there's probably just like, if we want to do a Mario and Sonic related product, we can just do that. We don't have to pay this corrupt international sports organization, and I'm not talking about FIFA, but also
the other corrupt sports organization. Yeah.
Well, one of the other. I mean, we have to deal with the F1 as well. Although they've gotten better now that there's American business money involved.
The cleanest money.
Well, the money that's most likely to get you investigated by the FBI. So there is a certain amount of like cleanup that's happened in that sport. So all we need is oil sheiks and U.S. businessmen to take over FIFA, and everything will be fine.
Don't worry about it. Just look the other way. Don't worry, everything's fine over here.
No, because the FBI will actually arrest FIFA members, unlike European investigators. So that'll be fun. But yeah, I think the Mario and Sonic franchise is effectively dead. And Sega's already got their immediate updated plans for their fucking Sonic generations with Shadow for no good reason whatsoever.
Yeah, is that like a Bowser's Fury thing? It's just like, we've got like a chunk of game that we didn't really have a home for, so we've just grafted it onto this remaster.
I think Sega's just stupid. I think it's literally just a situation of they don't realize Shadow's a terrible character. I mean, to quote GX, like he's dumbfounded by how bad a fit Shadow is for the Sonic generations, being like this colorful, upbeat product, and it's like, and here's Shadow, he's got gun.
Well, the video I saw just had some very sorry.
No, just I think that to answer your question, it's not really clear if it's just tacked on, if it's integrated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Either way,
the video I saw was just like Shadow doing some very like Doctor Strange visuals, that kind of. And there is even like the one-eyed monster thing from Doctor Strange. And like
I don't want to hear about Shadow's one-eyed monster.
It was a separate entity. And also Shadow's going to be in the next Sonic movie, so it's just kind of like, okay, we've got to have something Shadow related. Shadow's relevant, right? This character that's going to be in the movie is. Like, he's not a relic. He's still current. Look, he's in this game. I don't know. I've not seen any of the Sonic movies. I'm not following the Sonic media empire closely at all.
But so Shadow was never current. Shadow was always dated.
He was. Yeah, I tell you when he was current was in the early days of this podcast when Evan was reading off. I think it was Evan or Mike or possibly both. So he said, "You go to hell, Robotnik," or whatever it was.
Oh my God.
I'll never forget that. It sounded so shit.
Edgy.
Shadow was current 5 years before his character was first drawn. Oh, what a piece of garbage ass character. All right. Anybody else got any game predictions they want to do before we move on to the elephant in the room?
Sure. I think that this will have to be a Switch game and not a game on the next system. Unfortunately, like it's a little bit too close to the latest WarioWare game, but I do think that Nintendo will push out WarioWare DIY, a sequel, Generative AI Edition.
That would be really. Oh fuck.
Yes. So there's no generative AI features in it. What it is that you post your game, and at some point some asshole will just train their generative AI on your game and other people's games, and will create their own thing, quote unquote, and then probably make money off it and ruin you in the process. Benefiting no one but one person, basically.
I think you're onto something. I think it's Wario.
Come on, it'd have to be, if it was AI stuff, it'd have to be WarioWare DDIY. Don't do it yourself.
That's true. I was thinking it'd be Wario
or
Game
possibly
Builder.
DDIYD. What's the extra D for? That's a typo.
I was just leaning. It's a WarioWare mode in Game Builder Garage because they've already made a game making game on
true,
Switch.
Yeah.
But it's instead of it, you just give it a prompt and it just spits out garbage at you. But it actually doesn't do any AI generation. It just randomly assembles a game.
Sure.
It's like, here it is. I did it. Or they just bought all the same asset packs that 90% of the Switch games are made of anyway and stick them into Game Builder Garage and call it the WarioWare mode.
Oh, nice.
There's something deeply sick and twisted about that. Honestly, I would buy a Wario branded Game Builder Garage. I feel like it would be so bad and so awful, but so funny that it'd be worth it. Oh, but see, now you got me thinking about like what Mario Maker, but it's Wario Maker, and it's just like the game deliberately just fights you anytime you try to make a stage. It's like instead of being able to make a stage easy, it deliberately makes the process of stage building next to impossible and defective. And so they just put fake bugs into the game, like you're just running and suddenly you fall through the ground and Wario pops up and just says, it's cost cutting, and then falls back into the screen.
Or it could just like replace your toolbar with like some sort of co-pilot, let's say. And like it just asks you like, well, what do you want me to do with these blocks? Do you want me to put all these blocks in a nice, double column on the side here? And I guess you have no choice but to say yes, and then it does that, and it's like, well, what was the point? I don't know.
As an Azure-focused developer who currently produces content in .NET Marketplace for other Microsoft platforms, if I see Copilot one more time, I'm going to get on a plane and do violence. Not on the other side of the flight, not on the flight. Last time it popped up to me, it asked me, "What can I help you with?" And my response was, "Going away forever."
Stop being AI clippy. Stop it.
And it was like, I can't help you with that. And I'm like, oh no, I can handle it. So yeah, fuck Copilot. Fuck it. It's the worst. It's the worst. It won't shut up. It's like this show.
Hey, easy. Easy.
So
present company excluded. Come on.
Well, that's true. You shut up a lot. It's true. Sometimes weeks at a time.
Yeah, sometimes weeks at a time. That's right.
All right, so let's talk about it. Before we talk about what it is there a new console announced this year? Just quick yes, no.
Yes.
I think so, yeah. I think
so, because it may or may not make it this calendar year, but I feel like fiscal year. It could be March again. As Switch was, in 25, in this case, obviously it was 17 back then. And 3DS was like February, March as well. So it could be sneaking in at the end of the next fiscal year, but you would still be announcing it during this calendar year in that event.
Yeah, I think it'll be hinted at the investors meeting.
That's the next question. Shh. Let me get to it.
All right, get to it.
So, yes, I also believe it will be announced this year, but will it come out this year?
Nope.
People can't follow fucking instructions. Okay. What was your answer, John?
What is the question, James?
Will it come out in 2024 calendar year?
Calendar year, no.
Guillaume?
No.
Greg?
I'm really on the fence about this. I kind of feel like they want it to come out this calendar year, but I don't know whether it will. Like, I think there's a chance that it falls back. The software's got to be ready. The production stuff has got to be handled, and maybe in the end it's going to go back to that first quarter of 25. So it's still in that earnings period.
I think they'll need more time to get a shitty voice chat solution together. They have to really dumb it down.
First
what if you had to have two cell phones, one to connect and then one to speak into and then one to hear from?
What if you had to have a burner phone
That's right. This is my Nintendo.
Yeah,
what if it's the Nintendo burner phone?
A Nintendo burner phone.
It's the last season of The Wire where it's just like you communicate by sending each other pictures of clocks.
Yes. What if I have to go to like Dollar General and buy my cash only phone so I can have Nintendo voice chat?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Thank you for naming the episode, because right now we were sitting with "It's Not Shadow's One-Eyed Monster." I guess my Nintendo should be one word, shouldn't it? It should be my Nintendo burner phone. All right, so I am with Greg here, where I believe they want it this calendar year. So you know what? Since everybody else said no, I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say November. Hold on, let me look at the November calendar. I want to give you a date because I'm
fucking bold. Are we going by Price is Right rules, or
no?
Because then look, I'm going to change my answer, I guess.
If I'm off by one fucking day because I'm one day too late, you bastards are going to give me credit for it.
The thing is, generally they've been going, in terms of the software releases, they've been going more for October. For their big, you think of Odyssey and Mario Brothers Wonder, both of those were October games. So if they were kind of going for that slot, but with the hardware, maybe it could be October. But then again, it's like, would it be ready for October? I don't know. It's hard to say, especially with the pandemic kind of as kind of just thrown this current generation, kind of off probably what they originally envisioned, and any kind of mid-cycle revision got shelved because of potential production issues with that and everything. It's everything's a bit muddled.
I think they've seen what happened with the Xbox and specifically the PS5 and how and with the Switch, honestly, for years of the people just not being able to buy their system.
You've got to build up the inventory, haven't you?
So I think my date, I think it'll be a Friday because that's been sort of the trend. I think it's Friday the 15th. Why? Because Thanksgiving is the 28th. That gives them a chance to get another full shipment out to retailers before the Black Friday surge. So they would have a big shipment ready on the 15th. They'd have another shipment essentially waiting in the wings to go that they could then drop. And maybe they filter in a little bit for that intervening week, but another big round of drops they could have in place for retailers for the 29th, which is not just a North American thing anymore, which back when the Switch launched, it was still primarily just a North American phenomena. Now it's more global, so that's a bigger hurdle to get over, but there's an expectation that I can buy the hot new product on the 29th, maybe in very limited quantities, but that it will be available at retailers. So if you were to do it on the 22nd, the Friday before, I don't think that's enough time to get another shipment in place and get the logistics lined up. So 15th is the number for me. I think any sooner than that, and you run the risk of maybe not, like, even if it's just one additional week of production off the assembly line, that's still, thousands and thousands of units into the channel for launch day. And I think they want big pre-order numbers, big fucking pre-order numbers, so that they can go to publishers and say, this transition is going fucking fine. Make sure your game is ready. And that's important. That's the last hurdle. Like, transition is going great. You can make your game with absolute confidence.
All right, can we rattle off our final predictions in Thunder Round style?
Well, real quick, I had one more question, then we're going to go Thunder Round.
Okay.
Is this thing just a Switch with more horsepower? And if so, do you believe it to be backwards compatible? Those are technically two questions. Go.
So I think yes. And actually, this was going to be one of my predictions. Like the Switch 2 is going to be very similar to the Switch 1. But Nintendo is going to be, we don't want to repeat the problem with the Wii U. People thinking it was an accessory. We're going to give it a different name. It's not going to be Switch 2. It's going to be something else. But we still want it to connect to a TV. We still want it to disconnect from the TV. So basically it's the same thing, but we need a different name. So I think that they're going to go with the Nintendo Shunt. And they're going to be like, this is not like it doesn't switch.
You shove it into your TV.
Yeah, exactly. Like the signal is shunted into the TV, and now, and they're going to have to come up with a different, like a snap, right? Like it's going to be instead like a slap or something. Yeah, something. Everything very similar but different.
as someone has seen the end of the movie Society from the 80s, that word has connotations that are ghastly. I'll just leave it at that.
I just like the idea of every time you slam the shunt into your TV, and I do think you should have to just bang it into the TV instead of that nice, satisfying echo reverbed click. You just get ugh, just over and over every time. It's a product that sells itself. You are the new Paul marketing, Guillaume. Congratulations.
Yes.
I think it is not going to I think form factor wise, there will be enough similarities that you can see that there's an obvious lineage. I think there will be something about this device that is just not physically possible on Switch. And it might be something minor. Like fundamentally, the form factor of 3DS, DS to 3DS is very conservative. It's just that fucking 3D screen they threw on there. I'm not suggesting this thing's going to have a 3D screen. Nintendo would be out of their goddamn minds to put a 3D screen, and not in the good way, in the Nintendo way. But I think this thing is going to have some capability that the current Switch simply does not have, that renders it more materially obvious this is a new thing. But from a naming standpoint, I think they will be quite content to call it Switch Iteration Indicator Goes Here, because the cell phone space has made that a much more acceptable thing than from the Wii to Wii U era. I think they'll be mad about it. I think internally they're going to have all kinds of fun names like the Nintendo Shunt that they wish they could call it, but that their marketing team is going to be like, look, man, it's so much easier if we just call this thing Switch 2. It's just so much easier for us, man. Please, just give us this. Just fucking give us this. We had to sell the Wii U for 5 years. Just give us this, man. Something easy. Give us something easy, man. And they're going to have to go shelve the name Nintendo Shunt in the trademark Hall of Fame, but unfortunately in the trademark graveyard as well. From what that thing is going to be to make it special, I had a thought that I was like really, really ready to pounce on, and I'm less convinced now, but I'm going to go ahead and lay it out, which is I believe that it will have more functionality that you would normally see on like a tablet or a phone. And this is the danger zone here. I think there will be a more focus on presenting things like apps. You could technically do that on Switch as it is. I think there will be cameras for forward-facing video, so you can do video straight off the device. I believe there will be built-in microphones hardware on this thing, so you don't have to have one when you have it out in portable mode, but in docked mode, you do need to have some kind of external Bluetooth. Yes, I said Bluetooth microphone. I don't think you'll have to use your fucking cell phone. I think it will have some kind of advancement on the motion space that they currently have. They tried to do this with fucking HD Rumble, which is still done. HD 2D and HD Rumble happened in the same press conference. I want to point that out. That's a fucking nightmare, and I still hate them for it, and I will never forgive them. I think there will be some kind of advancement in that space. I think there will be some kind of advancement in motion controls, and I think there'll be some kind of input mechanism that we don't presently have on Switch besides showing Daddy your Joy-Con teeth. So I think there's going to be something new in that space that we currently don't have. Maybe it's a new controller type. I think we will be able to still dock controllers, though, and I think they'll give us a fucking D-pad. There. Oh, and will it be backwards compatible? Yes, I think it will be backwards compatible with the Switch library, and I think that will be a major selling point for games that are still coming out this year, and that's why Metroid Prime 4 can be on both systems and not require two separate versions. They could just let it run in a higher resolution natively on the new device.
Yeah. No, I think that's pretty much my sentiments. The problem is I just lack the imagination to come up with, like, they're going to have to put some sort of wrinkle in there. Hopefully for their business prospects, it'll be the kind of wrinkle like HD Rumble that if it is kind of, ultimately sort of insignificant rather than, being something that's actually going to handicap the system's ability to succeed in the marketplace. I mean, I thought that was a mistake at the time. I said it with Switch with HD, where I was just like, don't put anything in this that is going to make it more expensive than it needs to be, that isn't going to drastically increase its appeal. But, it was so successful, it didn't matter. So I can't come up with what this wrinkle is going to be, but they'll definitely feel the need to put something in there. I just don't know what it would be. But
resistive triggers.
The only sort of caveat I'll attach to that, I suppose, is it's worth mentioning that obviously it was ultimately years after Iwata's passing, but Iwata was kind of, still in place at the time that they charted the course for where Switch was going to go, where it was, again, clear that Wii U had failed and that they needed to think about where they were going to go. Iwata was still involved in that process. Now, of course, we're very decidedly past that, and I don't know if that will manifest itself at all but maybe the approach might be a bit more straightforward, a bit more, less reaching for some sort of imaginative element, because it's just kind of like, look, we've got this one hardware line now that has been very successful, and, we need to not mess it up. So they might be a bit more conservative at this point. I'm not sure, but I suppose the other thing to wonder about is when they would reveal this, how do they pace out the announcements and so forth. And in the past, it might have been a kind of, especially just, going back to previous cycles where this was still a thing, you would have thought, well, summer and E3 would have been a, natural time to do it. But of course, E3 doesn't exist anymore. So it kind of muddies the water a little bit. And of course, when is it actually coming out? I mean, I certainly would expect us to know about the next system at least sometime in that kind of late summer, autumn kind of period. If it's going to be in this fiscal year, the next fiscal year, ending in 25 at all.
Switch was that video drop in November, I believe, because it was right before I went to Japan. So, if y'all are right on the date, that feels like the right target. Obviously, if I'm on the date, that would be, we're going to announce it on the 8th and release it on the 22nd. Have fun.
Yeah, then you have to talk about early summer at that point, presumably. Yeah.
Yeah. John?
I think it will be backwards compatible. I don't see why they would not do that. That wouldn't make any sense to me at all.
Yep. Well, unless they want to resell you those games.
Well, yeah, true. But I just think I just think that would be a major selling point for any upgrade. And I think to go along with that, I don't think it's going to be drastically different. I think it's going to be an obvious upgrade, but the same form factor, since that form factor has taken off with things like the Steam Deck and the Legion and all of these kinds of Switch-like PC clones. I just think that form factor that Nintendo pioneered has just taken off and is now an entire category unto itself. And so I don't think that Nintendo is going to abandon that category at all. I think they're going to stay in there, but they'll probably keep it, make it a bit better, probably make the controls a little bit more ergonomic, maybe a little bit more comfortable than the Joy-Cons were. I think it'll be roughly the same. I don't really know what the wrinkle is. Maybe it'll be something like the Steam Deck where they have a little kind of like pad, sort of, the kind of the equivalent of the mouse pad on the Steam Deck, something like that. But yeah, I think it'll be roughly the same. In fact, I really, as a customer of theirs, I really wouldn't want anything else because I think the Switch is a really, really, really good form factor.
Yeah. I actually I had a longer thought about the fact that there are other players in the space now that might make them feel more inclined to differentiate. But I'm struggling to think of what that ends up looking like.
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
I kind of wonder if it's possible at this point to have a more like Game Boy form factor, which I wouldn't mind because I find that, you have to crane your neck down so much.
So what if the screen comes up to meet you? Like you can tilt it. Like
somehow.
Like
that would
the
be nice,
Game
actually.
Duck, which has a tilting screen. I'm not even joking about that. You can go Google it.
It's not really compatible with like the kind of the wide screens that we have now. So
no.
I don't know.
Yeah, my thinking on this is that I actually think they're gonna go fucking nuts and make the controller enormous. I mean the controller, the screen. I think they're gonna feel as the Mega Duck, and no, that one wasn't. It was the Akama one. I think they're gonna try to make the screen as big as they can fit and do as little bezel as they can to make up for the fact that it's probably not going to be an OLED, so they can sell you an OLED later. And so this will be the biggest Switch screen we've ever seen, which might make it more difficult to do stuff with.
Yeah, there's rumors of an 8-inch screen.
8 inches is fucking enormous.
Yeah.
What if it's not 16:9 though? What if it's got like a side column where you can have other stuff going on besides just your game? What if they're going to make multi-screen gaming on the same device?
Snap your apps. It didn't quite work for Xbox One, but let's do it.
Multi-screen gaming on one screen. Let's go.
With the back touch from Vita as well.
There
Let's
we go.
do that.
Yeah, it's the Frankenstein's monster. No, that's not going to happen because then if you dock it to your TV, there'd be stuff that you couldn't see. But what if it's on the... Ooh, maybe that's the new feature. What if they find some way to let you have some content on your screen by having some smarts in the dock, even when you're holding the console? Ooh. See, now we're thinking with let's make this thing extra expensive. What if they make you buy 2 Switches and then you can have content?
I think there's a very obviously it's always in the eye of the beholder, and we don't know what the specs are and all the capabilities. I think people are going to raise eyebrows when they see how much this thing costs. Nintendo will not price it cheaply, especially because we've entered a new world of greater uncertainty in the global economy about production lines, inflation, interest rates, exchange rates, and you're setting obviously the last cycle has been very long. And so, this one may also, be quite protracted, and you're setting a baseline that you think it has to work for the next, so many years. And they made it very clear their sort of like regrets almost about, we should have priced the Wii higher, because it was so successful and everyone was buying them off scalpers for this is the way they think. And they do not want to end up selling this thing at a loss because some crazy shit happens in the world or whatever a year from now. So it's going to be expensive, basically.
Yes. Yeah. And like there was this weird, somebody was talking about like, well, I mean, the Japanese yen is in the toilet. It fucking is. It's bad right now. It's bad right now. But the problem, and like, but that Nintendo loves it when the yen's bad because the exchange rates, they report their sales in yen. They can convert dollars to yen and it looks fucking great. Here's the problem. They don't pay yen to produce their products. They're either using the global reserve currency of the dollar or they're probably paying in Chinese currency. Well, Chinese, exchange rate's not great right now either, but they're going through their own economic, tribulations. But still, if their expenses are reported in yen, those also look bigger. So there is a certain amount of like the inflationary pressures are really bad in most of the world still, not as bad as they were, but they're still not great.
And again, it's the uncertainty. That's
right.
The thing. You've got more uncertainty now. There's just clearly more stuff that is currently going on and a greater feeling of like, what's the next thing that's going to go crazy? It's just, you compare it to where we were coming into 2017, which, it's not like it was all plain sailing and everything back then, especially for Nintendo, because they were recovering from the Wii U disaster. But in terms of the global economy, it's way more uncertain outlook. And Nintendo is very, very sort of careful about, we do not want to end up taking a loss on this hardware, not just how we price it today, but how it's going to go and how that price is going to hold up to potential fluctuations years in the future.
Yeah, like right now, the exchange rate of the yen to the yuan is about 6 yen more per yuan than it was back when the Switch launched, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it adds up. Like, it adds up fast. So, that these inflationary pressures are, and currency pressures, and like, I'm just going to straight up say, the Japanese government's consistent efforts to manipulate the value of their currency to increase exports. It is. I mean, that's what it is. This is economics 101 shit here. They are nakedly trying to devalue the yen and succeeding possibly beyond what they wanted to do. Is going to complicate manufacturing and sales numbers writ large. To the point where legitimately I could see them being cagey about how they report stuff, because like, obviously there's, you have to report to a certain degree, but like, they're going to try to use as much off the shelf parts and products and stuff as they can so they can keep their costs way down, because converting the yen to pay for your manufacturing is going to fucking suck. because the yen's not going to get any better because they don't want it to. Now they might get a benefit from the stagnation in the Chinese marketplace right now in terms of the economic factors. But again, at some point, China's going to be a tapped market for cheap manufacturing, and you're going to have to start looking further afield. And I don't know that there's an obvious play there. But if you're building a system that might last 7 years, you have to think about that. What's going to happen if both the economic and population stagnation in China continues on? And they continue to gray just like Japan has. Who's going to be the next labor force to produce your console? Like that's a really fucked up thing to have to think about, but it's true. What about global trade? Like how many Switches are going to have to go around the Horn of Africa because of military strife?
Yep. You've got to price all these things in, and they're the kinds of people who will, they're not going to be Microsoft and like, oh, well, if we end up taking a loss on it, so what? That's not how they do things.
So here's my prediction on price. I think you're going to see eyebrows raise, one, because it's higher than any Nintendo system ever in absolute and inflationary, maybe
real
not
terms as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you're going to see a bigger discrepancy than people are used to between U.S. pricing and pricing further afield. Because they're going to feel more confident in the stability of the dollar, which is largely stabilized at this point relative to its peers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I could see them padding the number in some of the other markets more just to protect their profit margin.
Yeah, you've seen Sony kind of do that already as well, haven't you? With some of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I feel that's pretty likely. Pretty safe bet. So yeah, I guess just rattle off a couple of quick things here, before nothing shocking at all, but I do think John already mentioned it, kind of 3D Mario has got to come early. I think that's yes. One of it's one of the things. Obviously, Odyssey was a long time ago now. It just feels like we're ripe for that sort of cycle to come around again. And also, Mario Kart's got to come early, right? That's you've seen it with that's the 1-2 punch that saved 3DS. You had it on Switch. I think they're very mindful. You've got to have those two, not necessarily at launch, but within the first kind of 9 months or so, it's got to be there, and we will see them.
I added one more to that, which is Animal Crossing.
Yeah. Well, that certainly is another thing that is proven itself to be so powerful that you want it.
It triangulates multiple marketplaces in terms of target audiences. We have the stats on this. Animal Crossing's user population is significantly more female than a lot of Nintendo other franchises. I think you'd have, if we're right, it's a backwards compatible system with the potential that it could perform better. Like games built for it could perform better on the new system. You could have a Pokemon game near launch. You could have that's still on Switch, so the Pokemon company doesn't have to do their shit. But also you could say, hey, look, it performs well on this system. I think 3D Mario is due. It's probably overdue, to be honest. And it's a good thing to launch a system with. Zelda's going to be a long time from now.
It's going to be a long time.
I think you probably leave Zelda unless it's something kind of spin. You could another like Hyrule Warriors or something, maybe. I don't know, but Zelda branded is one thing. Zelda proper seems a bit fanciful.
But Metroid fans, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this: Metroid Prime 4 ain't going to sell a lot of consoles at launch time. It'll sell to the hardcore, but they need something else.
No, I think Metroid Prime 4 is actually several years off. I think it'll be on Switch 2. In terms of Switch 2, I think it'll be hinted at in the investors meeting, which is usually around April. I think it'll be announced in September. I think new 3D Mario will be announced alongside it, and then they'll come out in March. Basically, bank that money for the end of the fiscal year.
And we need a new and we'll get some new franchise to go with it as well.
Yeah, the only thing that's like a little bit less crushingly obvious, I do think, with having had Mario Brothers Wonder, it kind of leaves something open and for side scrolling, right? That if Mario's going to be the 3D game, then I think DK getting a side-scrolling game again. The DKC has been a commercially very powerful brand at times. Obviously, Tropical Freeze, on Wii U didn't get to sell very much, and then it did fine, when it got a Switch version. But I do, especially with again, Universal Studios Japan, the DK expansion, DK being a lot in the Mario movie. Maybe there'll be, a DK movie one day. Like, I feel like that will be an early title shown off early. And, somewhere in that first kind of year, a new DK side-scroller. Probably not by Retro, I guess, if they have been busy with Metroid Prime 4 this time. But, I'm sure they could find somebody to do a good job.
Next Level would be a candidate.
Mm-hmm.
They've had some time. And they could be, I have every confidence they could build that game and also produce really great interstitial video, because Luigi's Mansion 3 has amazing CG videos in it. Yeah, to me, this thing launches with some shared lineage, because it launches in the end of the year. It with some shared Switch games, so like the Switch big holiday games are also this thing's big holiday games, but big is relative for the Switch at this point. But there will be games that are exclusive for this thing, and the marketing around how they say this is not for your Switch 1 is going to be very interesting. And I think here's how I think they handle it. New games for this system are digital only and will only let you buy them via the eShop if you're on the right hardware, or you have that hardware attached to your account. And how they will handle this with retailers is cards. And if you try to redeem a card that doesn't work, well, that's a shame. And they're going to rely on the retailers to do it. And we're already seeing this with Xbox, because they're pulling Xbox retail games out of stores. It's coming. I think it'll still have the slot because it'll be backwards compatible. But I think that the easiest way to avoid people with Switch 1 buying Switch 2 games is just not letting them. And the only way to do that is if all transactions are digital. Guillaume, you got any rapid fire? Or are you done?
Is this funny? I don't know. It might be too dark. Let me know if I should cut it.
I already predicted Punch-Out, so go for it.
Not really directly about Nintendo. Basically, I was thinking that Ubisoft just won't be fucking able to keep their mouths shut. And in the wake of their, what was he director of? Like digital distribution or something. Like he was like, gamers are going to have to get used to not owning games. So I think that for whatever reason, Ubisoft's head of HR will say to the press or to a judge or whoever, unprompted, to someone on the street, women applying to Ubisoft will have to get used to being strangled or licked, have their faces licked at office parties.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then like someone like maybe will try to calm the everything down. Like their officer of diversity, equity, and inclusion might come in and say like, no. What they meant is that they should they should be used to have their male colleagues and superiors masturbate under the table in front of them.
Well, that's a fucking note to end this show on.
I got a couple.
Oh, okay, all right.
I mean,
good. Yeah.
I refuse to end on that dark note.
Okay, fine.
I respect the darkness. A couple ones.
You respect Eternal Darkness is coming. John Linneman predicting Eternal Darkness returning.
No, I would love it.
Is this a new segment? Misheard predictions?
Yes, that's a great segment.
All right, I think just thinking about the next Mario movie, which has been, I think, announced but not really clarified what it is. I think that'll be a Princess Peach spin-off.
Okay.
I think Nintendo Switch Online, I think they're finally gonna release Terra Enigma for the Super NES on that.
Ooh.
I think that Super Mario Run, I think that will be announced that it is shutting down in 2025 because that game cannot be making them any money right now. There's no way.
No.
And I also think this year they're going to announce an N64 Classic Edition.
Okay. No, that's those all make sense. I had one more, which is I think GameCube comes to the Nintendo Switch Online, but not for Switch 1. I think that makes
sense. Yeah,
I agree.
And that part
it's
of
the expansion pass and expansion.
Exactly. I think part of the expansion. I think part of the new hardware will be to make GameCube games more playable on it, more natively playable. And I don't mean kidney bean buttons. I mean like maybe the shoulder triggers are more compatible with the GameCube stuff, although not that many games used it and stuff like that. So cool. All right, I think we're done. We're done. We made it through the segment where we get everything wrong. So thank you for listening
probably
to us.
Record time on the contradiction.
Yeah, thank you for listening to us get everything wrong. You can send your emails to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com to tell us that we were already wrong because the Nintendo Direct was announced. It'll be coming out on insert Nintendo Direct day here if it's already happened. So on that, emails rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. You can send your questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, gloating, stupid ass games that you've thought of. We've gotten 2 now. One of them actually is very dumb. We might use them on the show, but not this week because we're out of time. So, music. Greg, end the show. What do we got?
Well, Spencer sent in a request in light of the aforementioned Sega announcement.
No.
And so it reads...
Vetoed.
In response to the recent announcement of Sonic Cross Shadow Generations, I feel like giving the old music suggestion box some much needed suffering, scratch that, tributes to the greatest character in the Sonic the Hedgehog series, Pistol the Porcupine. So, yeah, this is, in fact, a song called All Hail Shadow. It gave me 2 versions of it to choose from. One from Shadow the Hedgehog, the game, and then another from, was that Sonic and the Black Knight? Yeah, I'm going for the Shadow version.
So a bad character's bad spin-off in a worse game. Oh, God.
Yes, this is like, basically, if you think in your mind, certainly my mind, mid-aught cheese, this is what you could think it, it pretty much is an encapsulation of that whole vibe right there.
Why do we keep indulging Spencer? We need to do something about this. All right, well, on that.
Sonic Cross Shadow Generations only gets announced once, so, you've got to mark the occasion.
You say that, but it's Sega. That's not true at all. Well, on that, I tell you enjoy, but you won't. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Later.
Bye-bye.
Nothing ever feels